This podcast contains strong language.
Hello, and welcome to What Lingers. This is the podcast from the people behind Storytelling Lisboa, where we uncover the questions behind people's stories.
I'm Jonny Bunyan.
And I'm Liz Melchor.
And we are the team behind Storytelling Lisboa, where once a month, 10 storytellers get on stage in front of 200 people and tell true and personal stories related to a theme.
We don't produce anyone. We encourage newcomers. The night is free for all. We want an inclusive stage dedicated to fostering community, sharing the human experience.
And we absolutely love it, but there is a problem. We always have lingering questions for the storytellers and no format to ask them. That is, of course, until now.
What Lingers is a chance to dive back in, inviting storytellers to retell their stories and stay for a conversation in front of a smaller live audience at Tribe Social Club in the heart of Lisbon. Okay, and everybody, you might be wondering why you're not hearing Cristian's voice and instead you're hearing this very hunky British man with a radio voice that I'm very envious of. And this is our very amazing producer, Jonny Bunyan.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you.
Do you want to tell us tonight why you're stepping in, where Cristian is?
Well, indeed, yeah. I am stepping in for Cristian, and it's not because he's disappeared on holiday early, as much as he probably would have loved to be lying on a beach somewhere. In actual fact, Cristian is the storyteller of our final episode of the series, and so even though Cristian's amazing, we thought it would be better for him to concentrate on telling the story, and I get to sit with Liz and ask some questions. And it was the most amazing way to finish the series, wasn't it? It was a very personal story, and it was a night I don't think either you or I will forget.
Exactly. It's a very personal story, and it's a story that I heard him tell on stage a few times, and have been very, very excited to record this episode. And I think it's a really special episode, and I don't want to give too much away to the audience.
Normally, we like to tell you a little bit about what the episode is about, but we thought this time round it's best to just let the most amazing person that we love so much on this show do the talking. So, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Here's Cristian with his personal story.
In the summer of 2009, after spending a holiday and my birthday at my mom's place in the plains of Colombia, I went back to Bogota where I used to live, and I felt really sick in bed. I was shivering with fever, my body was aching, and I probably had the worst fever I ever had in my life. And I was studying vet school, I knew something was going on, but also something you need to know is that I grew up in a very conservative and very Catholic family and country. And when I hit puberty, I started going to the ER frequently with abdominal pain that no doctor would know what was going on. So that night, I thought, it's just another flu. Bogota is in the high mountains, and my mom lives really, really at the sea level. So you go from really hot temperatures to really cold temperatures in just 1 hour. And normally people get sick. And I thought, maybe just a flu. It wasn't. In the morning, I had to get up, take a taxi, and go to the ER again. Just a regular procedure. I've been into this ER room for a lot of times. I got checked in, I got on fluids, I got under observation, and things started to get complicated when time passed and observation was passing, and at some point the nurse came in and she says, we don't know what's going on, so we need to hospitalize you, we need to have you here, you need to call your family. So that's when I got worried. I called my mom, she lives in another city, and she flew in the next morning. My sister, who was living with me at the moment, she come from home with some clothes, and that started this adventure of the hospital once again. The doctors suspected about dengue fever, which is very endemic at the place where my mom lives, and I just spent the summer there. So the thing with dengue is that you cannot get the diagnosis until 2 weeks afterwards because of the antibodies on your blood won't show up until then. Just for precaution, the doctors wanted me under observation and just to rule out just all the viral diseases available in Colombia or in the tropical weather. Nights passed, like 2 or 3 nights, all with feverish nights. My friends were visiting from uni, really, really shaken because they never saw me so weak and so debilitated in my life. And I could see also the agony of my mother sleeping on the little couch next to my bed in the hospital. One night, the doctor came when my mom was away at home. It was like 10 p.m. And he entered the room of this really fancy hospital in Bogota. And with a heavy look in his eye, he told me, "We have some results." And he handed me a paper. I took the paper and I started reading my name and my information, where I live, my ID, everything. And then I started reading all these tests that they were ruling out. And one got my attention. It said in big letters, HIV testing positive. I stopped breathing and I felt the world crushing my lungs and my body. As the one thought crossed my mind, I am going to die. The doctor looked at me and he asked, "Have you been practicing any risky behavior?" And very confused as I said, "Yes, I'm gay." Probably just reflecting this internalized idea that I had, that being gay was a sin and this was my punishment. Because this was really unfair on me. I just got out of the closet 2 years ago. I even had just one boyfriend. I'm not that promiscuous. I haven't had that much sex. Why life is doing this to me? The doctor told me, "Well, don't worry. We still think that you have dengue, but the HIV is just probably being in your body for a year already because of the cell counts that is on your body. And don't worry, everything is going to be okay. You have more chances of being run over by a car than dying of HIV. But you need to tell your mom, because we need to proceed with the treatment, or we just basically with a viral disease, we just keep you alive until the body gets, the immune system fights the virus." Then he left, and then I took a few minutes to cry as hard and as loud I could cry. But also, as a good Colombian and as a good, just following the family tradition, I just was ready not to make a big deal out of it. I have to swallow this pain and promise myself that I will never cry again for this diagnosis. I started thinking that, well, if I was not going to die, and if the treatment was going to take just a few pills, I could still experience the world as I want to. I mean, I started thinking that I could walk, I could see, I could hear, everything in the rest of my body was just functioning. So, yeah, maybe this is not that bad. The next day, my mom came in the morning, and the memory of the image of my mom breaking into tears of desperation when I told her about my diagnosis will probably never leave my memory. And even though I told her everything is going to be fine, the only thing I could remember at that specific moment was 2 years earlier when I came out as a gay person to her. The only thing my mom told me was, "I just don't want you to get sick." And there I was, breaking another promise I couldn't keep. I think that night I broke my mom. And I think until today, when we talk on the phone, and she always asks me, "How's your health?" She's not specific, but she always asks, how's your health? I think there's a part of her that still remember that morning in the summer of 2009 when her son got diagnosed with HIV. After this, my life changed completely. Of course, my routines became monthly appointments with infectious disease doctors, psychologists, nutritionists, DHNAs, taking pills, having side effects to the pills, and of course, lying. Because the first advice that my psychologist in 2009 in Colombia told me was, this is something that is gonna worry your friends, so don't tell them. Keep it to yourself because they're gonna worry more than help you. And that's what I did. I kept this diagnosis as my ultimate secret. And just 2 years after I left the closet as a gay person, I entered a darker and lonelier closet that was having HIV. At that point, only my sister and my mom knew because they were at the hospital that night, the day I told my mom. And that was the new beginning of a new life for me, because when a thought of dying crosses your mind and you actually taste the fear of losing your life, everything resets on you. And I felt rage, and I felt injustice, and I felt that life was actually giving me a stab in the back. Because I was the good kid, I was the good human, I was the good brother, the good son, the good student, even the good gay. I was not a mean girl. And somehow life was paying me this way. It was so unfair. Still, because of that, I was like, I need to start living for myself. And that's when I started changing my decisions. I moved out of Colombia. I started asking and wondering what do I wanted to do with my life. And I actually started being more promiscuous because what the fuck, I'm already with this. I'm gonna take care of my body, I'm gonna take care of my life. And I learned so many things after this summer in 2009. 6 months later, of course, I felt like a walking biohazard. I felt dirty, I felt broken, I felt polluted, like contaminated. I don't know, that's a Spanish word, sorry. I literally thought I could kill somebody else, or I could end somebody else's life. And it took me like 6 months to start dating again. And one of the many things I learned of HIV, I was so ignorant about it. First I was completely ignorant about this. Even I was going to vet school, and I was all into science. I knew nothing about this. And with my first boyfriend after HIV diagnosis, I learned that what it meant to be undetectable equal untransmittable. Because one day when we were kissing, my boyfriend bit my lip, and all the blood from my mouth came into his mouth. And even though we both freaked out and I had to call my doctor in the middle of the night, we learned that nothing was going to happen because I was taking my pills and the levels of the virus was so little in my blood that nothing was going to happen. The other thing I learned from being diagnosed with HIV is that you have to learn to read and to know about the secondary effects of every pill you take. Because 1 year later, I was having suicidal thoughts and a big depression. And I didn't know why, because I never felt like this. I was always, I had reasons, but I think I was doing okay with my diagnosis. Still, I had these thoughts of taking my life. Until one day, I don't know why, I decided to speak up on a nutritionist appointment. And I'm like, I think I'm depressed. And she was like, well, the medication you're taking, the secondary effect is depression and suicidal thoughts. So maybe it's a secondary effect, and actually it was. The day I swapped medication, it felt like I was reborn again. And the third thing I learned from having this diagnosis was that still it's very unfair that we are gay and we suffer a lot, but then we have HIV and society still look at us with the stigma, with taboo. In Colombia, this was 2009, but also today. Because that first boyfriend I had after my diagnosis broke up with me when I was in Brazil doing an internship. And as a revenge, he took my ultimate secret and he shared it with everyone in Bogota. So when I came back to Bogota in 2010, everyone knew, and that made my life very hard, more into dating. And then I discovered that it is okay when you have a disease, as long as it's not mental health or sexually transmitted. And it still is. It took me 10 years to not listen to that first psychologist and to actually share my diagnosis with my best friends and my cycle friends from Brazil and from Colombia in 2018 when I moved to Portugal. It took me more than 10 years to make peace with the fact that this was the body I had and the condition I had. And for the first time, I felt compelled to share this story on the stage of storytelling in Lisbon. I don't know why I decided to share the story that day. What I know now and I understand is that every time I tell this story, I feel like I take more and more of the power that this story has on my life. And like, after 10 years, and a couple of weeks ago, I had the chance to have a talk face-to-face with the person that transmitted HIV to me or gave me the virus. And I could see the fear on his face when I told him I'm going to share this story on a podcast. Because he still lives in Colombia. He still lives in a society where this is not talk. His friends doesn't know. Nobody knows. And that's what I dream for me, and that's what I dream for other people that might listen to the story. That every time you share your story, you own it, and this story loses its power. And I guess at some point it helps you heal from whatever happened to you, even if it's HIV or any other traumatic situation. So for me tonight, this is the first night, the first time I'm actually sharing this story with the world. And it means the world to me that you are all here being part of this, part of my history. So thank you so much.
I think we're good. Okay. Cristian, thank you so much for that. We're going to talk about, obviously, your story. I think just want to say thank you so much for sharing that. I think round of applause, because that was amazing. So great. Obviously, most people in this room know who you are, but the audience around the world listening to this podcast, can you just introduce yourself, if you don't mind, so people have a better understanding of who this incredible human being is?
Of course, yes, my name is Cristian Figueroa. I'm from Colombia. I'm 37 years old. What to tell? I do so much. Where to start? But lately, I work as a holistic therapist. I help other people. I run Storytelling Lisbon with this amazing human being, Liz and Jonny. I'm also a nomad. I love traveling. I've been in Brazil for 6 years. I've been in Portugal for 5 years. I think that's pretty much.
Studied veterinary science, but...
I'm a neuroscientist. I did a master in Brazilian neuroscience, and I do love science, but... that's another story that I shared on the stage. I went to vet school and then swapped for the holistic But nowadays I'm lucky enough to combine both with the psychedelic assisted therapy that I'm working on at the moment, where I can get to use neuroscience and also the holistic yada out of the world. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay, I just want to say, yeah, it's good, breathe, it's good.
Okay.
Again, I want to like reiterate the thank you and for sharing for everybody here and for the first time that you shared. And so I was there the first time that you shared this story. The first time you shared this story, it was in Portuguese storytelling. It was a smaller audience. It was maybe about 50 people. And then a month later, you shared it on the English stage. And I didn't know before you got on stage. We were close, but I didn't know. And so the first time I learned was when you got on the stage. And I know you said, I think you said right before you got on, like, okay, I have a story to tell. Like, it was sort of a last minute decision. And then you shared this, and I was so touched, and I felt like it was so brave, because as you say, there is stigma attached, and unfortunately in 2024, there continues to be stigma attached. Where a lot of things have become less stigmatized, I think this one persists a bit. And so I'm wondering what made you decide that day, and also how open were you with your HIV status before that? Like, did your friends know? Because you talked about, so it's a two-part question.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because I didn't plan to tell that story that night. I had another story prepared for New Beginnings. And I don't know what happened, actually. Since I became a healer, I tried to trust my guts more, and literally that night I felt compelled to share the story, to swap it last minute. When I got on stage, I was like, I need to change the story, and I told this. And I don't know why I told the story. Definitely, looking backwards, I feel like there was a part of me that was tired of being, I feel like I was kidnapped from my story. Like, every time I go, on every place I go, I have this, like, I couldn't be myself just because of this story. And because I was already trying to tell my friends, my close friends about it. You know, something that we tell a lot here in storytelling, that is so much easy to share something personal with a crowd, that with someone like someone from your family or someone you care, you have like this fear of rejection. I feel like there was a part of me like fed up of hiding and being like in this jail. And also I remember I mentioned, I feel like someone in the audience needs to hear this. And a couple of people came to me afterwards and they were like, oh, that's why, thank you. A couple of people came afterwards and they told me, thank you for sharing your story. This means a lot to me. It was so courageous. And from the first time I shared it, I already felt so much lighter, and I already felt so much release. And I think that's why I did it again in the English edition. It was larger audience. And so yeah, like with all these things, like when you're healing from your trauma, it's like hard to know what you're doing things, the real motivation. But definitely I feel like sharing my story was part of my healing process and accepting myself.
I mean, that makes complete sense. I want to just go back to the stigma part of the conversation, because I have a very close friend back in the UK who is HIV positive, has been for many years, and has also for many years been undetectable. I think a lot of people listening to this may not necessarily understand what that actually means. And I think this is where the problem with the stigma comes, because of course for a long time in the 80s and 90s, the association with HIV was it's a death sentence. Yeah. You'll have very few years to live. Could you just, in a bit more detail, for the people at home especially, who may not necessarily understand the undetectable status, what actually it is like now for many thousands of people with HIV who live just as many years on this planet than people without it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get technical, sorry.
Yeah.
So for the HIV, the virus is just like a protein and it replicates on your blood. The thing with the HIV is that the meds that you take, they don't reach your brain. So the HIV virus replicates on your brain, but not in your blood. So when you take the pill, it kills the virus from all your blood, but not from your brain, and that's when the virus comes again to your blood. So being undetectable means that you're taking your pills, and your pills are killing the virus, or the number of copies of the virus on your blood, so much that you cannot transmit it to anyone. There's zero chances of transmitting HIV virus if you're taking your meds. That's what it means. U equal U, untransmittable equal, no, undetectable equal untransmittable. So that's what happens. And that's what there's no cure, because the meds cannot cross the barrier of the brain.
But it effectively means that there's no risk to anybody else that you're with. And I suppose a question I had, really going back to the psychologist's initial advice, which was don't tell friends, don't tell family, because of the judgment they have. Knowing what you know now from the undetectable status that you have, how do you feel looking back on that advice now, considering the fact that actually that psychologist was really misinformed about the future and the reality of it?
But also the psychologist said to you, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, he said to you, don't tell them because it will worry them, right? Yeah. So he's handing you this burden of protect their feelings at the expense of your own. Totally. But how do you feel about what the psychologist said?
Of course I have mixed feelings, and when I think about this, there are two ways I've seen. When I shared my diagnosis in 2019 with my friends, I received so much support and so much love and so much everything that I felt really bad that I waited 10 years to receive this, because I could have used that in the 10 years I navigate this whole history on my own, and my mom struggling and hiding and lying at my work because I need to take the pills and it's just vitamins and blah blah blah. But also, I mean, as everything we live in our lives, it shapes us, it makes us who we are. So definitely navigating this on my own made me the person that I am now. So it's hard to tell. Of course, I don't know why she told me that, because it's nonsense if you think about it. Nowadays, I've been in groups of support groups, and the approach is so much different. But of course, 10 years ago, and East Colombia, and Catholic, and blah, blah, blah. So it is complicated indeed. And yeah, that was you asked a question, I don't remember what.
That was it. No, but I think that's the other thing, though. There has probably been a cultural shift around how to talk about certain things in education from 2009 till today. And that changes a lot. So you had come out on your HIV status to your friends before you got on the stage.
Yeah, to a few ones.
And when the first time you did it, the first time that you told a friend, what was your feeling and what was their response?
Well, I cannot cheat it on that because I was here in Portugal alone. So I woke up one day and I was like, I need to tell someone. And I wrote a text, a big text, and I kind of spammed all my friends, my personal friends. I sent messages all over the world, don't worry, everything is okay, because a lot of people still worried. And that's when I kind of understood that psychologist, because a lot of people actually worried a lot. And then I started receiving all these messages and all this love, but it was WhatsApp groups and stuff. So I actually never got to tell someone face to face. Well, my brother I did, which was, I think, one of the other courageous things I had. My dad doesn't know. My dad doesn't, well, he does know I'm gay, and we don't talk about, I don't talk with my dad because he's a homophobic racist. But yeah, I don't know. I think I protected myself a little bit by sending messages. And this is something I learned when I was young, writing letters and journaling, because it's easy. Just read this and you deal with it.
But that's actually very. I mean, it's all the rage now to journal because all our therapists tell us to journal, and we should get it all out on paper. You were doing it before it was popular. It was very good. I suppose my question. One of the things that I was struck by your story, which is a really inspirational thing, I hope people will agree, is that once you were clear about the medication and understood the positives of your life actually not really being curtailed by a huge amount, you then took it on as a bit of a liberated, I will own this, I will be myself, I will find my own way through it. And I think that was such an amazing attitude, Cristian, to have. And to be honest with you, it rings true. I'm sure I can say for Liz as well, that your attitude to life is very much live it, breathe it, feel it. You see and hear Cristian coming a mile off. There is this ball of energy. And do you think that in some ways your decision mentally to go, I'm going to take this on and live with it to the best of my ability and not let it get me down, how did that come about, do you think, in terms of your decision to be liberated by it almost?
Yeah, I feel like that night at the hospital, it was a little bit like that struggle inside of me. And again, like everything has two sides. From one side, my family was like really not able to talk about emotions and dramas, and my sister already had anorexia, so it was like a lot of drama already. And I felt like in this space, like I cannot bring more drama to my family, so I have to man up a little bit. And again, like that's not ideal, but that kind of helped me because I needed to man up and I needed to keep going. And that's what I told myself that night, like, okay, cry for a few minutes and that's all you got for crying. Then you have to keep going. And that, I think it helped me.
Yeah, and when you said that in the story tonight, I thought like that was sort of like the attitude that you had in that moment. Like, all right, I'm allowed to be sad about this for a small fraction of time, and then like, all right, I got to toughen up. And I'm wondering if that's how you would deal with it now. Like, I mean, if that's something that's changed for you over time and how you manage your feelings and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. When I was diagnosed, I was 21 or 22, so I had no literacy on emotional intelligence, even though I was already a sensible person and more emotional than many of my peers. I think that being diagnosed with HIV broke everything that I had built for this character of Cristian, and then I have to rebuild from scratch. And that's when I started doing therapy. Like, I got a real therapist afterwards, like a good one. And I got into meditation, yoga, and spirituality, and also like, maybe I don't want to be a vet, maybe I don't want to live in Colombia, maybe I don't want to eat this, maybe, like question everything about me. Of course, that's something I changed so much in 15 years, of course. And today, if something I teach people and meditation groups and all the sharing circles I run on my business is to cross the pain and to let it be as long as you need to. I wouldn't recommend what I did. It worked for me, but also I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to brag, but I feel like sometimes life put me so much things. And because of my crazy family, we deal so much. Like when my sister and I sit together and to talk about our traumatic childhood, we're like, how we're not on the streets like doing drugs or something. Like actually one therapist told me like this one day, like you must have been loved so much by someone on your life, because I heard this story in so many ways and they end up so many differently than yours. So I feel privileged and lucky that I have the resources internally and externally to cope with this diagnosis.
And another thing I was thinking about is you brought up having a face-to-face, not WhatsApp, right? Conversation with the man who infected you. And that was recently, 2 years, in the last couple of years? Yeah,
it was recent.
And was that, what happened there? I mean, if you want to share, because if you don't, obviously say no, but what was, you shared to an audience, you shared to your friends, what was that conversation with sharing with the person that had given it to you?
Surprisingly, it was really good because I was already in this healing process, and another thing that my infectologist told me was don't go after this information when I got diagnosed. He was like, don't try to find out who gave it to you, because that could be like an endless road and it will bring just frustration. So that's what I did. I was a really good good boy. I was like, do this. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go afterwards. But 10 years later, after I was trying to heal this story on me, I kind of needed like closure and resolution. And I always kind of knew, like my heart knew and my gut feeling knew that this was the person that probably gave it to me. And the crazy part of all this thing is when I call this person and I tell him, like, I want to tell you a story, and I just share my story. Like, this is what happened to me. He started crying, and he was like, why are you telling me this? I was like, I'm just sharing. And then he went like, I am also HIV positive, and I am sure that I gave it to you. And the thing is that he discovered like a few years earlier. So I had my diagnosis like 10 years ago when I talked to him, and he was just beginning the journey. So I kind of comfort him, and I was already like, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, look at me, like, this is what's gonna happen, we can talk. And I was already, like, when I started sharing my story, I was already like thinking like, I need to use my story and storytelling and all these things I'm doing to help others, just not me, because I don't want others to go to the same path. So it was a good conversation. I had no hard feelings, surprisingly.
That's what I wanted to just ask, sorry, like, I mean, the fact that you'd found out that he'd had it 2 years before, hadn't reached out to you, hadn't said anything, and then you were actually consoling him and helping him. I mean, the fact that you've had to go on such a journey to be there, but was there no sense of anger or bitterness in regards to the fact that actually, had you known from him, I mean, you can't change the past, but I mean, it's remarkable that you didn't have that.
Yeah, I was surprised on myself as well, because I was expecting a little bit of anything, anger or whatever. But it was 10 years already. And it was like, HIV for me at that time was already, like, I was here, I was already taking one pill, no side effects. My life was just already, I was living my life. I was really good. So I think maybe the infectologist was right. If I had confronted him 10 years ago, probably I would do something that I would probably regret. But I felt I felt bad because I never told him, and probably he would known earlier. And then because of me well, that's his responsibility. He should have tested himself earlier and anyway. But I kind of felt like, fuck, like I know this for 10 years and you just found out. I could have told you. But yeah.
Just on this, before we go to audience questions, because I'm sure there's probably quite a few. For the people out there, and listen, it is incredible what you've shared tonight, because it is such a personal thing. And I think what is amazing about it is the people listening here, but also people listening at home, it will have some impact. And particularly, what would you say to the person listening to this who today they listen to it, got that diagnosis, has just come back from the hospital with a diagnosis of HIV positive? What would you say to that person listening to this now, after what you've experienced and what you've learned?
Ooh, that's quite a responsibility. I need to think about it, because I feel like the new generation, it's coming so much prepared when it comes to sexuality and to ISTs and all these things. From what I've seen already in the sharing circles, people don't take it already like this. They are like, okay, I got HIV. It's like, yeah, I got diabetes or something, which is shocking to me, because I was like, damn, I wish that was my case. It wasn't, but I'm really happy that people now, they are taking it that way. So I feel like, of course, I believe this is not everyone's case, but I feel like if anyone is being diagnosed today with HIV, it's just to know that nothing is going to change in your life. Absolutely nothing. You just have to take one pill. And I mean, nowadays there's like this injection for a year that is probably going to be approved soon. And literally nothing changes but the fact of living still in a society with stigma. Because even for me, and I think that's part of my process here, telling my diagnosis to my partners was really, really difficult until last year. like anxious attacks of fear of being rejected, fear of being left out, fear of being not loved. They were still present at 36 after all these years of therapy and educating myself. That still struck me.
But what changed last year? What changed?
Well, I think, I have a relationship that started having an argument because I didn't disclose my diagnosis. And this person comes from a society that, that's what he told me, that everyone just talk openly about it. Like if you go on a date, they will be like, hey, I'm HIV positive on the first date. And something that I learned from all the therapies and all the groups is like, you are not obliged to disclose your diagnosis to anyone. In some countries, it's even a crime. In Brazil, it's a crime if your workplace asks you about it or spread this word. So I always tell my partners or my sexual partners when I knew it was going to be something serious. I never told like one night stand or I don't know. And this person felt that I was lying and hiding information, and we had a relationship kind of started on this really bad basis, and we never got on an agreement because he was right and I was right. And this is something very controversial when I talk to people. You can have so many sides, like who's right and who's not. At the end, I'm taking care of myself and my life, and I cannot be responsible for anyone around me in that sense. And nowadays with PrEP, and everyone should be taking care of their bodies. I'm doing my part to be taking care of my body and everyone's around in my sexual life. But people also have to own their responsibility. So that happened 2 years ago, and I felt like I hit bottom. Rock bottom. And it was like, I cannot believe this is happening, this is still happening, because that happened to me in Brazil, 7 years ago, and that happened to me in Colombia, and it's so stressful for me, and it was like, I cannot keep living like this, because I'm being open on stage about it. Why cannot be open with the person I'm trying to have a relationship? So that was like a red flag internally to me, like, okay, there is some healing and there is some things you need to fix on that. That's not 100%, because that's the other thing, like my dad, or I don't know, HIV was always on therapy, like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm living my life, I'm taking my pills, and then this happened, like, it's not all fine. So I think that changed, and I think that's what I've been doing. I've been working, I've been telling strangers about my diagnosis, or on the first date, I'm trying to do that, like, hey, or if we're gonna have sex and we don't have condoms, I want you to know this first. And it's been amazing. Every time I said it, it's just like, oh, yeah. And people, amazingly, just like, yeah, okay, what? Let's have fun. And then we'll take care of it. People, there are other ISTs. Please have sex with condom and protect yourselves. My very good friend, Doctor, has been helping me about that. I'm diverting. Did I reply your question?
Yeah.
Talking for hours.
This has been so good, and I think we will open it up to
we
the
will.
audience.
Just one thing I will say though, just very quickly, is that what you've just said in this last 45 minutes, I know will have such an impact to not just people here, but people listening, and genuinely, this will change lives. The fact is that whether or not people at home, some people will know that being undetectable means that things are fine. There's a lot of people that won't, but crucially, even the people around people that don't know, it's going to have an impact, and the stigma will lift off the back of the more we talk about it.
Definitely, and I feel like that's why, when I heard you say it on the stage the first time, it was just such an amazing moment, because I was like, one, you're giving permission to everybody in this room that holds, because you know what, not everybody has the same HIV positive secret, but people have secrets, and they have these things that they hold that weigh on them. And then and you're on the stage and you're being brave and you're saying, okay, this is the thing, there's cultural stigma around it. I don't know how you're going to react, but I'm going to like say this and lift it. And it gives people permission to do that for their own stuff. And then also I do think in 2024, this is not something that's talked about openly. It still holds stigma. And I'm glad that like younger generations are being better about it, because that's good. But I think the more that we talk about something openly, the more the stigma reduces. And so sharing your story and being that person is awesome. And so thank you for sharing it on our stage every single time, and thank you.
Yes.
Totally right. And it's going to help other people. It's going to help relatives of people. It's going to help friends. It's going to help people talk about it and not feel scared to talk about it, whether they're the people or not. I think that's the most amazing thing. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, I feel like if now that I have an answer for that question that you said before. If everyone listening to this episode end this episode and go and test themselves, that will be an amazing and huge winning for me already, because I have so many friends that are so afraid of knowing that they prefer not know and never got tested. Yeah. And probably this person that got it to me was one of those cases, like, how can you spend 20 years having sex and never got tested for ISTs? Yeah. So please test yourself regularly or every 6 months. That's already a win.
Okay, so now we are going to open it up to the audience, and we're open for questions, and we got some.
Let's go to the lady with the big laugh first. There she is. Oh, no, no.
It's okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Cristian. So thank you very much for sharing your story. I was really touched by it. You mentioned earlier something that sometimes it's easier to share your story to a big audience rather than one-to-one and then feel rejected. So I wondered, in your healing journey, if it's closed or not, but what difference would it make to now share your story with your dad?
Well, thank you for that question. That's actually a good question. The thing with my dad is the relationship is more complicated than just this. My dad never believed that my sister had anorexia, for example, because he's one of those guys that he thinks that mental health issues are just, you just want to draw on attention or whatever. So I don't think, like I have this mantra on myself, like if you should never talk to people that are not open to listen. And I feel like my dad is one of those persons that they just won't listen. So I came out to my dad when I was 27, 28, when I felt like nothing he did or he said would affect me or touch me or had any power on me. And I think with the HIV thing, I'm still healing and I'm still like navigating myself. And I don't think I'm ready, or probably I am. I mean, I kind of shrugged when he was evil with me, with being gay. So probably I would be like evil if he's with this. But since we don't talk, we haven't talked in years, I don't see that coming soon. Also, I don't feel like I have the need, as I felt when I needed to tell him I was gay. My family doesn't speak English, so if they listen to the podcast, well. But yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna talk to my dad but probably if I see him again, I will consider sharing him, because that would be like the last secret, the last card on the table for me.
Hi, Cristian. Thank you also for sharing your story. I have a question that might sound a bit weird, but how did your diagnosis help you? Do you think overall it brought more positive change in your life than a life that you would have lived without it? And if you had the power to completely remove the diagnosis from your life, from your life story, would you do it, or would you actually keep it? At the end of the day, what would be your choice today?
Yeah. Thank you. So, well, at the end of, I had dengue. So a few weeks afterwards, I went back to the hospital and I had dengue. So thank you, dengue, because of the dengue fever, I actually discovered I was HIV. And of course, when I got into this center of, okay, we need to keep you alive, I have to start taking care of my food, the diet, exercising, therapy. So a lot of good things came out of this, and a lot of trouble as well. Like, I used to travel a lot, so I need to figure out how was my meds going to work in the other country, who was going to give me the meds, if I was going to be able to have the meds. There are some countries that you cannot enter if you are HIV positive, like Arabia Saudi. You cannot enter. Singapore, Australia. What? Those fuckers. Yeah. Imagine. So even, I mean, yeah, even for being gay already, that's a lot. Now there are countries that won't allow this. So all these things came into my life now, and I have to be mindful. I think that's the word. I have to be mindful about my life in every single aspect. Not only my body and my health, but also like everything. Like what am I doing with my life and time and everything? So of course today I see it as a silver lining, as a gift. I do believe that the other thing is, like, I've been, after the diagnosis, I hardly get sick because my immune system is always like fighting, so I hardly get flus or colds. There are some perks, but of course I won't lie to you. I am human, and if I could go back in time, I will change. I mean, I won't. This is tricky, because if I was in this generation that they're having HIV and it's just like, yeah, I'm having HIV, that probably would be okay. But I struggle a lot for 10 years, and I don't wish that to anyone. And if I could have, and if I could take that from my life, of course, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of trauma involved in that. And if I could go back and take it, I probably would prefer something different. I remember something yesterday, remember me. The first time I started questioning my life, of course, religion came into it, and I went to a Brahma Kumari center. And one of the first things that this monk told us, it was like, our souls, I'm going to get spiritual, sorry. Our souls chooses every experience that we're living in this human. And he was like, if you have cancer, your soul chose to have cancer because you're learning. And I was so mad, like so mad. I actually stopped going to Brahma Kumaris. Now I understand that, because I am on a different path. And I understand that everything that happened to me, it actually teach me a lesson, and it actually gave me a tool, gave me a skill, gave me something.
It gave you a voice to talk about it, which is, I think, is one of the most amazing things. Because not everyone does, Cristian. I think it is.
Yeah, we're here talking about it.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, if you tell me that I'm gonna lose all these things that I'm doing right now, if I don't have it, if I change my past, probably I would think it twice, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Hi, Cristian. I've actually heard this story in a different version at Storytelling Lisboa before, so thank you for sharing it again. Something that you said, I was thinking, it was lingering in the background, is that if everybody was diagnosed and everybody was having prevention from this, then the disease would be eradicated. Because if everybody cannot share it, then at some point, if everybody was taking a pill, at some point the virus would not be around anymore. So the problem is that, as you said, people are not getting tested and they don't know if they have it. So I'm asking, because also you do some social healing with your work and your communities. If you're telling this story in front of Storytelling Lisboa, but are you actually doing this also in the gay community in Lisbon, or like are you proactively trying to do something to share this story, or just to push people to get testing?
Yeah, thank you. The answer is no. I think, as I said with my dad's situation, this is something I'm still trying to get comfortable with for myself before I can actually give someone else's the hand. Or even the information. I went to a sharing circle last year when this situation happened with my ex, and there was a lot of information I actually ignore nowadays. So I know a lot of things, but another advice that my doctor gave me is don't Google HIV. And that's something I recommend to everyone that has a disease or anything, because the future is an endless possibilities can happen, and everything can happen to you, or anything can happen to you. So I stopped Googling research and stuff a long time ago, and that's when I realize I don't know what's going on actually with HIV. So it's no, but it's one of my desires. I'm doing this because also I want to get proactive. I want to get also like probably a sharing circle for the queer community, the queer community in Lisbon, so we can talk about all these things. But also I feel like I need to prepare myself more emotionally, psychologically, and probably, I don't know, in other areas before I can give more support to others. Besides just sharing my story and telling you it's gonna be okay, because
I think also, just for clarification, that while many people become undetectable because their viral load is at such a level that medication can be brought down, there are still people who will contract HIV, have it for many years, hit a point where their viral load will be at a stage where medication will not always necessarily help. So just for clarification, the virus, as it stands, from my understanding, there is no cure, even if people take the medication, because only certain people can be undetectable, but it is improving, from my understanding. So just for clarification on that one. Any other questions?
yes.
Yes. Well, first I need to say Chris is a very dear friend of mine, and he's a very, very special person. You can edit it out if you want. But so my question, as I'm also a millennial gay, I would like to know if you are already free of the thought that your diagnosis was a response from the universe for being gay.
That's a good question. Because as many other things I said, like, it's okay, it's fine. I feel like I'm still not, and I don't know if anyone will be, well, probably I'm speaking for everyone, that's my mistake. I think there are some days that I wish I could go back and not be gay. Because again, the life that we have to live, and the trauma and the pain and everything that we have to go as a gay person. So I would be lying if I say, yes, that thought is gone. But most of the days is, of course, this is not a punishment, and probably my soul decided I needed to do this so I can help others. I don't know. But there are some days that I just wish my life was simpler, and I could be straight and I didn't have HIV. But yeah, some days are better than others. So I definitely don't see it as a punishment anymore. But yeah, it's funny because when I told this story, someone came to me afterwards and he was like, "We need to talk. We need to have a coffee." And we have a coffee, and he was straight, and he was like, "So tell me more about this. Like, it's only the gay people, only for anal sex?" And I thought, like, geez, okay, there's a lot of misinformation. I mean, we are still at day zero, you know, like, so there is a lot of work to do, and yeah, I don't think it's a punishment. Also because from that night, I decided it was not going to be a punishment. I really do appreciate that I have all my body, the integrity of my body. It is just nothing changed. So I can experience the world just as if I don't have HIV, basically.
So my name is Murilo, and I have a very objective question. I think that I agree that we are still, as all of us, as a society, we're still far behind where we should be when it comes to discussing this issue. Even though we are getting better, we are still far behind. And as a Brazilian person and someone who grew up in Brazil in the 90s, I can definitely say that I didn't have enough education on this topic as a kid. So I guess my question is, at that point, at that moment when you received your diagnosis, when you got the news, had you been educated about this issue at all? Like, did you understand this was a virus, someone had transmitted it to you? I guess the question is, what did you know at that point? What did you know?
Good question. I cannot remember. I remember having like sexual health classes at school, but I was like 12. And by the time, because I was gay, I was not able to have sex at 12. I had sex for the first time at 19. So of course I was already gone from that class. And of course, that's the thing, that I hated myself because I had information, I had internet, I was at veterinary school, biology, chemistry, blah, blah, blah. I kind of should have known better. And I didn't. I knew it was a virus. I knew it was transmitted by contact. This is amazing because my mind, my ego mind, made up this amazing story that I got contracted, I got HIV from a needle with in the clinic, because I used to do like, how do you call it in English? Like when you work like 24 hours in a hospital. Shifts. Yeah, I was doing shifts at the clinic for the small animals, and we had blood the whole time from everyone, from the dogs, from the cats, from the people, doctors. So I think for many years that was the lie I told to myself, that I got HIV at the clinic. Of course I knew that wasn't the case, because it actually happens. I mean, there are some unlucky people in the world that got HIV from transfusions at birth. You can pass it on the birth. So yeah, I knew like all these things, but probably I didn't knew that like there were meds and nobody dies anymore. Like actually, the other thing I did after crying and swearing to the universe, I called the person I had sex like the night earlier. The person I was dating at the time, I was like, I had HIV. And he was the first person that told me, don't worry, that's okay, like nothing happens, people doesn't. And that was like the first voice after the doctor that I listened like, okay, maybe this is, everything is gonna be okay, because he told me everything is gonna be okay, and he just had sex with me like the night. So, yeah, I felt really bad with myself for not knowing more. And I think I still do. I think I should know more, for sure. We all do.
But
any more? We're almost out of time,
Here in the
so
front.
thank you.
So of course you don't know for sure, but do you think that having a near-death experience, perhaps that you thought that might be the case, that you would end up where you are now? You changed your career, you moved. Do you think those things would have happened, or it's a result of this?
Yeah, in that sense, I have to be grateful to HIV, because if I never got HIV, I would probably follow my regular life in Colombia. I probably would still live in Colombia and being a veterinarian and being miserable probably. So in that sense, it's definitely a wake-up call. I felt that HIV was a wake-up call to live and own my life, because at that point I was not living my life. I was living my family's version of a life. I was living Colombians' version of a happiness. I was living everyone else's life but mine. And that's when I felt like I lost everything. You know, like I had nothing else to lose. This is it. So it doesn't matter. I'm gonna risk it all. I'm gonna leave it all. I'm gonna just go crazy. I didn't go as crazy as I wanted, but yeah, I think that definitely, yeah, I still have time. Definitely that changed my life. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, hello. My lingering questions were somehow already answered, but I have a lingering comment that HIV is not necessarily a male homosexual disease. I am a little bit older, and as a teenager, HIV was an epidemic, and at that time there was no treatment. It was it was a death sentence. And it has influenced every single of my sexual relationships from teen to young adult. And I just want to open up the discussion because I feel like your experience is so different than mine, but your feelings are so similar to mine. So I have been, for example, when younger, I have been going for testing, for example, more because I was concerned about transmitting to someone more than having it myself. But it was really a concern when I was young. So you can hear from my voice, for the people on the podcast, I'm female, I'm heterosexual, but I still relate to your story.
Thank you for that. Yeah, well, that's the beauty of storytelling. That's why we are here. We have so many experiences. We are so different, and yet we feel the same, and we have the same emotional body. But yes, thank you for bringing that, because indeed, I actually had this conversation with a friend who's female. She's lesbian. She's very young. She's 24, and she never had any testing done in her life. And when I told her, she started thinking like, oh my God, like I never tested myself for anything. So indeed, I think we are in a patriarchy, and the women's health and all health, not only sexual, is just like forgotten and put aside. So yeah.
But it's also a very valid point that it does exist in the heterosexual community, not just in the gay world. I think we've got one more.
Yeah.
Just adding to what you just said, one of the fastest growing groups of HIV positive people in the United States is women of a certain age, women who are a little bit older, who are divorced and start having sex again. That's one of the upticks, because they kind of think they're safe. And that's not my question though. So this whole time I keep having this thought, and I don't really know how to say it as a question, so I'm going to kind of try and get there. But I was really touched by and distressed by what your psychologist said to you about don't tell people, and that they said that will worry people, and it bothers me on so many levels. But one of them is that I feel like that when we care about someone, we want to know what they're struggling with and what they're carrying, what their burdens are. And that is that's the privilege of getting close to people, is that you can share those burdens and love people in their times that they need love and care. And so I actually, it's sort of in my mind, because I know someone who's recently diagnosed with terminal cancer who doesn't want to burden her children. And I'm trying to say to her, her children want to be burdened. In that case, they want to love her in this moment, you know. So my question is kind of, did you notice any change in your relationship with friends once you told them? Did that have any shift in the way that you were together? Because they were able to maybe know more about what you've struggled with over the years.
Oh, I don't know. We will have to ask my friends if it changes, because I've been always blessed by my friendships, and my friends are my second family, if not my first family. I've been always blessed with great friendships, and I cannot tell you if that changed afterwards, because also half of my friends are in other countries. I was telling them from here in text messages. So probably they haven't had the time to or the opportunity to show up. But the ones I told them here, I think, no. One of the greatest things is that nothing changed, and probably that's better, because I don't think I will prefer it if they were all of a sudden treating me differently just because I have HIV, and it's like, oh, you're fragile, or like, I need to love you more, like mom does with the fragile child. So no, my friendships were already like strong and solid, and I think they're the same. I don't know if they changed when they knew. I mean, do you want to say something about it, my friends in the audience? You don't have to, don't worry.
Okay, thank you Christian, so much. I'm so happy and grateful that you shared your story here tonight, and I'm so happy that you're my co-host, and thank you. I love you.
We have to end the night with every question we ask all of our storytellers on this podcast. What have you learned about yourself from the experience of telling this story to not just this audience, but the audiences in the past?
I think when we started doing storytelling in Lisbon, I thought it was super fun and to connect with other people's stories. But then I started receiving this feedback from other people telling me like, oh, thank you for sharing, for holding the space for me to share the story because it really helped me. I told things that were completely secret to everyone, to my whole family or whatever on stage, and that really helped me to heal, that really helped me to cope, or that really helped me to go back to therapy. And I never experienced that until I share my story, and I cannot make more emphasis on this, how important it is for us to share our true stories, to own our stories, because it helped us so much. I really feel like every time I share the story and I verbalize it, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and the pain just fades and fades and fades, and I'm pretty sure at some point I will be able to tell it like without even just blinking. So it's just basically like finding in storytelling and sharing my story a healing tool, and just like a reprocessing our story and owning our stories.
And what's amazing is it's healing for you, which you say, but I think what's incredible about doing it on this podcast is it will have touched lives, and it undoubtedly made a big impact, and we thank you for that, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? Christian! Thank you. Well done.
What a night, what an episode, what a way to finish the series. Liz, we couldn't finish this episode of the series without bringing in the one and only Christian. Christian, how are you feeling? That's quite a night, wasn't it?
Hi, angels. Yes, it was such a night. Thank you so much for your work. We had this dream 2 years ago, and now I'm sharing my story. I'm so grateful for you guys for being able to hold my space for my... Oh, sorry. I'm getting emotional.
That's okay.
I'm so grateful for this whole podcast and to be able to share my story with everyone and with you guys. So thank you so much. I think, as I said in the story, every time I share the story, it takes a little bit of power and pain from it. And I hope people listening on the other side, it help you or give some comfort for whatever you're transiting to.
I definitely think it will be very impactful for a lot of people, and I'm so happy that you shared it and felt comfortable to share it with us. I have to say that this is the end of our first season of the podcast, and I want to also say a huge thank you to Christian for pushing the podcast.
100%.
The podcast exists because Christian pushed it, and then it also exists because Jonny here is our producer genius, and I can't believe he's helped us so much. Thank you.
And it's been amazing. It's been incredible. And just quickly on this last episode, I think what was amazing, as well, was it wasn't just the people at home that I think hopefully have been inspired and touched by your story. It was so amazing to see the audience reaction, but also the amount of audience questions. The response you got on the night was just incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mind-blowing. I think it's one of the experiences I will cherish with me for my whole life.
Aww.
So thank you.
Now I'm getting emotional. I'm gonna cry.
Oh my God,
Stop. Wait, you guys, we can't end the podcast crying.
No, we can't. No, what we'll do is we'll think, okay, so season 2, if we're lucky to have a season 2, we need to think about what Liz is going to tell. What story she'll tell next season.
I got some good ones.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Oh, I got good ones, but mine aren't touching. Okay.
Yes, guys. Thank you so much. It's been amazing to do this with you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you everyone at home for listening, and see you next season.
So that's it for this episode of What Lingers, and indeed this season. Thanks so much to Emily, Charlie, and the team at Tribe Social Club for having us. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And please also follow Storytelling Lisboa on Instagram to keep up to date.
If you've enjoyed this series, then please do rate us and leave a review. It would mean the world to hear what you think, but it also helps people find us.
What Lingers is a podcast from the team behind Storytelling Lisboa.
It's produced by Jonny Bunyan. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for news on the next season.
Goodbye.
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 Oh, perfect.